So hello everyone. It's a pleasure to have all of you here today. Those who have joined our webinar on simple and easy steps to building the right security into a software product. Here today with us we have Nazar Tymoshyk, certified ethical hacker and skilled security consultant lead, who will share with us some simple and easy steps how to keep your software safe and sound. Don't forget to submit your questions to an email webinar@softserveinc.com or to live chat here, and we will be happy to answer all your questions at the end of the webinar during our questions and answer session. So, Nazar, how are you today? Nazar?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. How are you today?
Thank you, I'm doing well. So I prepare this presentation especially for people who own products, who design products, who develop products, and who test products.
That's great. I'm sure we have these people today joining our webinar.
So let's start. First of all, it's important to understand that problem exists, and the statistics showing us that from year to year, a number of security incidents increase dramatically. It's 27 or 28%. It's a huge number for only for US market. And like these statistics also show us that attackers become more sophisticated. They use different tricks to bypass network protection, bypass protection of operating system, and compromise application and steal intellectual property, like compromise customer data, interrupt into business process, also steal trade secrets. And like these said statistics from informationbeautiful.com website that represent distribution by industry number of biggest data leakage through the past years. You can see on this slide that like for 2015, there were huge security issues with Target, with eBay, with JP Morgan and ATM and many other and well-known Home Depot. So this sets statistics and information that these big players on retail, in healthcare and other markets, they experience these problems, indicates that it doesn't matter if you are small or big, you can become a victim of cybercrime. And these people will create condition for you when you can suffer problems with your customers, you can lose your reputation, your trust, you will lose time and money to recover after the incident because you should be sure that you have the latest copy of your production system, that your backups are ready and easily redeployed to the production, that if you are hacked, that means if you are under compliance, you can become penalties for each record in the incident. As well, you will lose data because some clients may experience a situation when some database is destroyed, and like if you store all your eggs in a single basket, or all your backups and production data in a single database, all this data can be stolen, modified, or compromised. So when people develop new or existing products, they always focus mostly in about features and use the standard controls to restrict end users not making something stupid. But they do not keep in mind that people always try to bypass some restriction, and this picture really represents this usual case how people bypass stupid security controls. So if we talk about products and developers, from security perspective. We always keep in mind that developer know something about OWASP top 10 security threats for web applications, or mobile application, or cloud application, but they are always focused on functional requirements, and they have only one deadline, that is one threat, that is their deadline. So very often we observe, we face a situation when projects start, and or we decided that we should add new feature to our product. There is no clear security requirement defined for this feature, or security requirements defined for a whole product. So without a proper security requirement in place, developer will use the simplest way they can. They will just open Stack Overflow and ask the question, and then they can select a really weak encryption or really like poor security control that will be easily bypassed by a sophisticated attacker. So usually we see like following situation on a project on a project of our clients. So they like start prototyping, they are building MVP product, they become investments, and then they become into production. And where before going to production to the massive market, they have to pass some security audit. And this is a problem because like the smart or like competent security assurance, security verification company can produce and find really a huge amount of the security defects. So this is a typical picture when we starting doing a third-party security assessment for our clients and face a huge ton of security defects. And then this development team should start rewriting a code, so building it again, retesting, and again re-auditing, because security auditing is a time-consuming process. It is 2 weeks, at least 2 weeks process, and if we like put it into our time frame, so we should like to do some refactoring, we should build it again, test it again, and spend at least 2 weeks for security audit, and then at least 2 weeks for re-auditing. It means then we are 4 weeks away from going to production. So what is the right way to do this? So this is a screenshot from one of our competitors with description of an issue, and development team comes to us asking us to help them to understand what exactly this security auditor mean in this issue, because it was so complicated to understand that they were not able to deal with it. Another sample is also like representation of this complicated approach and this gap between security auditor and development team. So the right way to do security on a project, and the way we already verified on many products, on many projects, is to integrate security from the early beginning of development lifecycle. So this curve represents a number of defects or security defects or security issues on a code level or during like development, and this indicates that number of security defects before going to production should be increased from coding phase to security verification phase to minimal. So how to achieve this? Usually we achieve this like through sharing our experience with developers, so through adding additional security expert to Tiger team on that product, to work closely with architect, with technical lead, with QA lead, to establish this process, and as well to DevOps to start from security coding trainings, then to integrate security testing tools with build system to make automated security verifications through build process in a continuous integration process. We are always interested to minimize involvement of security expert and to automate everything as much as possible. And before going to production and after release as well, each application should also be verified by a vulnerability scanner because during time some frameworks become vulnerable to known exploits, to known attack scenarios, and like with latest updates in our vulnerability scanner, we are able to catch these defects on production and to fix it as soon as possible. So to better understand why this makes sense for company of any size, we found this great like representation of cost for security defect on production, on QA, on build and coding phase. So as you can see from this slide, if like serious security defect is discovered on production environment for like good, expensive SaaS product, and complicated like application, this fixing of this security defect will cost at least $7,000–8,000, and if you catch the defect, the same defect on a coding level, on a build system, you will pay much less money than fixing it after it's already went to production. So if we talk about how much time should we spend for establishing security program in our organization, it depends on your organization and maturity of your organization. So usually we also see a problem that some of our big clients, they spend huge investments for purchasing security tool, and then they spend at least 2 years to establish a process of integration and using this security tool in their development lifecycle. We have experience with all this stuff, and we also face the situation when we talk with our clients and ask them, how do you do security? They answer, we bought an expensive security tool and it scanned our code. But the problem is that security tools, security scanning tools, on a code level as well as in dynamic environment, they are able to cover only 45% of known security defects. And to have this 45%, you should purchase all these security tools from this slide. So actual results for code security analysis shows that like these security tools, at least each of them, are effective only for 12%. So what to do? We understand that security is not a silver bullet and we should do something with it. Definitely using security tools makes sense, and you can use these tools for like obvious and stupid security bugs, like on a code level, to find this through using automating tool, and this can be covered by security tool. But to have a right security process and to make sure that your application will be not compromised after it's released to production, you should involve some security expert that will make sure that your application logic is correct from security perspective, that your architecture is right, and your framework you selected through discovery phase will not contain any known vulnerabilities, that your cryptography is strong. So all these items are not covered by security tools and can be covered only by involvement of security experts. So I will try to like represent few of typical scenarios we use to establish the security assurance program for our clients. So first of all, let's identify which problems we try to solve. So it's education of development team for security practices, it's correct security requirements for architecture, functional and non-functional requirements, and of course to be compliant. Security assurance program for integration into development cycle, and like the problem also is to minimize expenses to fixing these security defects we identified. So usual focus for us is a very tight integration with development team and like minimizing interruption like of their work to help them, like not to food them with security problems, but to help them to easily identify and fix all the security defects before they are in a CI system or on a QA environment. So what we do, we start from security architecture, we define this clear requirement, we set up automated security scanning process integrated into CI. We use dynamic application security testing to run security tests on a QA environment during night reviews. And on the final stages, we execute a manual penetration testing, which cover only very specific threats and scenarios for our application. And of course, we use secure production environment to make sure that application will not be compromised in the future. So how to get started? It's easy. It's to like conduct discovery of your existing situation on a product. So analyze current practices you have with your product, which security controls do you use to execute some pre-scan, to define a goal, which like metrics you would like to achieve, which metrics do you have right now, so how many security gaps you have in your product for now, and like having these numbers you will be able to understand when and how you can move forward. And of course, like with a clear and simple roadmap, you'll be able to move faster and like demonstrate this excellence and results within your security posture. So how to integrate security into your product? From beginning, you should create and start thinking about scenarios that may be used by attackers, like smart and bright attackers, to hack your system. Let's imagine that you decided to create some payment system or some application that accepts payments. So you should like imagine your enemy, your threat against, and define this use abuse cases to define security requirements and assess which assets are the most important for you and which assets will be the first target for your attacker. Then during the design phase, you will be able to create the right threat model and create this security testing plan that will be used in the following stages by your quality assurance team. Through development phase, you should conduct static source code analysis and then risk-based security testing. And in deploying phase, you should involve third-party security assessor to conduct the penetration testing. This is one of screenshots of real production threat model we were using. We use also Microsoft threat modeling tools. It's simple and easy tools that allows you to generate a typical number of threats for your application and define right scenarios to mitigate the threats before starting actual writing code. On this slide, I compiled for one of our customer a list of key security requirements with a critical and high priority that is already in the backlog. So you can see that some of them on this I use a filter so to represent which one already in a backlog and which are implemented or not implemented at this moment. So this rows represent an actual practices, and they are very detailedly described in another document. But this also allows you to have the right picture where you are and what should you do from security requirements perspective. If we talk about this scenario of integrating security scanner into your continuous integration process, then we have a great experience working with TeamCity or Jenkins as a CI tools, Veracode and AppScan as AppScan source and AppScan standard as dynamic testing tools, and static and dynamic testing tools. For dynamic security testing tools, we also use free of SoftServe and commercial but very cheap Portslinger Group suite tools. And how this integration will actually work. So from GitHub, Git or SVN, source code is put to a build server. Application is built, and during a nightly build, this application is processed by IBM AppScan or a Veracode and produce reports that are available for a tech lead or some senior developer for review and identification which one are critical, which items are false positives or false negatives. And then another scenario, if your code base is too complex for static code analysis, you can implement a dynamic security testing through deploying the builded application to some testing environment and then executing this fuzzing security testing against this deployed and running application. So which technology is covered by these tools we have experience with? It's mostly .NET, PHP, Ruby on Rails, Java, and many others. So on this slide, I also take one of projects we were using for integration, this dynamic application security testing and automated code security scanning for environment we built in Azure. So as you can see, it was using also a TFS, source control, Jenkins as build server. We were using free tools like FXscope, code analysis tools for .NET, and Sonar, which contain some robust security test cases, but Sonar actually is not very effective security tool. So we use testing environment for automation testing. We use security testing environment for dynamic application security testing. And then if we have security defects, we release application to production. So this is another scenario when we perform security testing in agile process. So from on initial static application security testing, we use a Veracode as a tool and use also IBM AppScan and HP45 to make sure that each of possible scenarios is covered by this code scanning tools, and defects will not appear in a production code. So if we talk about Scrum and Agile development, so this picture also represents how this security testing should be implemented through automated scanning and through manual verification, post-positive analysis, and executing from week to week for getting the right picture how developers are good in writing correct and security code. We use all these tools to achieve this simple goal of making sure developers do not produce known or simple security defects, but we also have dashboards that allow us to have the right metrics how we are going into producing secure and high quality code. These metrics also will allow you to detect a person or developers who create the highest number of security issues for your application, and this will allow you also to educate this person to share this experience with a team and to through identification these problems as soon as possible to optimize your code base and improve quality of this code base. Very often developers as a product and a product owners, they do not actually understand the difference for security testing, because some security testing is executed by a QA engineer, but the difference is that QA engineer is responsible for quality. But you can't have high quality products without having a high security level in this product. But the difference is that QA engineers, they are looking for known and expected results. So they are mostly focused on the functional requirements and functional tests. And security analysts, they are usually looking for some unexpected results. They are producing tracebacks. They are searching for application vulnerabilities in a logic, in a cryptography, in a session generation, in a login and authentication authorization. So very often QA engineers don't have experience that have security analysts. So we also have different tool sets to catch these defects on a code level. So on this slide, I represent how these tools are able to find simple defects like cross-site scripting on a code base level and help developers to understand exactly line of code where these security defects have place, and also to understand the root cause of each security defect and mark this, is it right triggering of security scanner, or it's a false positive and we should not pay our attention to this. So summarizing, I would like to stress that security assurance program and process have a huge impact to optimizing development process, and actually it's easy to start. It provides more actionable information about coding process, internals of your development products, and also allow you to improve security knowledge of your team. So it's through sharing security expertise within the solution and between projects through involving security experts, which will assist in validation of these fixed items, and it will also allow you to increase technology coverage through speed up and increasing efficiency like with building security into your development lifecycle. So that's all what I was planning to share with you for today. I will appreciate if you will have any questions or to start some discussion with me right now.
Thank you, Nazar. This was a wonderful presentation. So as Nazar has mentioned, it's now time for question and answer session. Please feel free to submit your questions either here to live chat or to webinar@softserveinc.com. So let me check. Here are a couple of questions for you, Nazar. So the first one, how often should you review security during the software development lifecycle?
Okay, I answered this question like a few slides before. Let me find the right slide. Give me a minute. Okay. So you should review security of your product on each stage of your development lifecycle. What this means? It means that you can integrate expensive security tool like IBM AppScan with plugin for your development environment like Eclipse or Visual Studio, and this will allow to catch these defects exactly in your IDE. Or you can use like a common approach that most of our clients use and conduct security validation only on the final stage before going to production. But this approach is ineffective from cost perspective and from perspective of actual results and efforts that you will have to make sure that the application is secured as expected. Did I answer the question?
So one more question. What to do if you have discovered huge security breach in your application, and to fix it you need 1 month's time, and the business can be stopped to fix this critical defect? So what should you do?
Okay, thank you. It's a tricky question, but I will try to answer this question with this slide. So yeah, this is a real situation, and some clients may face this as a real threat, but there is an approach called virtual patching, which allows you to apply some web application firewall, which will identify and catch any malicious request to your web application. And with this web application firewall, you will feel more confident, and you will have an actual information how many attacks you experience during business day, from which countries, which payloads, and which vulnerabilities they are looking in your product. So this virtual patching approach will allow you to like win time and fix your product, because very often we see a situation when web application firewall conduct additional overhead for web application. So you can put it in front of your application, but when you have fixed all the security defects, it's better to turn it off.
Great, thanks. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Nazar. And I think the last question for today, is it worth having a team that attacks the product prior to the release?
Sorry, could you please repeat your question?
Yeah, sure. Is it worth having a team that attacks the product prior to the release? So is it worth having an attack team?
Yes, it makes sense, definitely, but you know, it's possible only in huge companies where you have a separate security department, which will actually be responsible for verification of each product that is released to production. So usually this approach is used by big banks, by Department of Defense, and like similar organizations. So they have a special departments where training experts are involved to the security testing products on the final stages. If you are just a software development company and you do not need to have so many people involved into security testing process, and you can request only one security expert that will consult and advise your team and work more integrated into development than executing only one duty just to attacking your tool.
Great. So thanks a lot, Nazar, for your presentation, and thanks to all of you who joined us today. And I hope that you had an informative and fruitful time with us. So if you mind, Nazar, can you please scroll to the very end of your presentation where we have our schedule for the next webinar. So check out our schedule for the next webinars. Join us for the next webinar in January, which will be dedicated to the healthcare topic, and stay secure.